restaurant doesn't open till 3. It opens at 3. So if I wait till afterwards, then they're crowded. So if I go now and get the food,
Well, it's takeout, so it doesn't matter when you go, right?
well, but they cook it. Listen, I didn't have to change my clothes. I went there with my here. With my clay. Oh, you can't see, but it's my clay clothes on.
Yeah, I can see.
Yeah, my pants.
I just had a guy call me up. He needed 2,000 slides scanned.
Oh gosh.
I
Tell them
told
to buy a
him,
scanner.
I told him Scan Cafe. I can't afford, he can't afford for me to do it.
Oh, you don't know that, Larry.
No,
He can.
it's family
It's an
shit.
it's an April Fool's
Oh.
joke.
It's family stuff. He's working with his father, who's 92 years old, and his father is picking out the images.
Oh God.
Yeah. And I said, if you can get it down to under 500, we can work something out.
Yeah, that's torture, Larry. 2,000
Yeah, I
slides.
know. So anyway, I'm supposed to see Jim Messina tonight.
Oh, cool. That's worth going to.
Yeah. And it's only 20 minutes, half hour from my house. It's really close. But the person I was supposed to go with is sick. So I have an extra ticket. And I
Yeah,
don't have anybody to give it away to.
I wish I was there.
Right. I was going to post on that local next door. Anybody want a free ticket to see Jim Messina tonight?
I saw Loggins and Messina a few times.
Well, I photographed Kenny Loggins at Nassau Coliseum in 1974. So I've seen him.
And yeah, I saw Messina with Poco. Poco is one of my favorite bands of all time. That and Buffalo Springfield.
Yep. Well, he was at tail end of Buffalo Springfield.
Mm-hmm.
But one of my favorite live albums is Poco's Deliverin'.
Yeah, it's
which
great.
is an incredible energy album.
Oh, it's fantastic.
Yeah.
They were all fantastic.
So now let's talk. As soon as Barry takes a big bite of food, let's talk about him.
Go ahead. Just don't make me laugh.
Why?
He'll lose his
Because it'll come out, I'll
You'll spit it all over the screen.
Might be an improvement.
So you want to hear about Bayou City?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
We've been reading about it.
Tell us.
Let me start with this. I think that shows in paper looks like it's the same level that Coconut Grove, Boca, Fort Myers, maybe Lakefront. It should be an easy. You should be able to make money, and that show with no problem. I know the shows can go bad, and that can happen in any shows. But this is one show that they had to do something drastic, or they wanted to probably just don't do the show anymore. They don't have parking for the customers.
I know, it's ridiculous.
And the fact that they're complaining that they have to pay $25 to park and get shuttled to the show, pay $20 to get in.
Wait a minute. $25 to park and then $20 to get in?
Yeah.
Yeah. Then the show is a big circle, and they put me in an indentation the president of the association passed by and said that that section should really not be there because it's an outshoot. There's no reason to have artists in that section. So I'm going like in my mind, you guys know that and you're still doing it. I don't know what is worse. And
That's
then
just like-
No, it's horrible.
It's no different than the plaza, and they know that one row of artists over by the stage can't hear, and they do it anyway.
I just don't understand why they do that. Said that I do the show. They better off not putting those 10 artists in there and just charge split out if they want to lose the money, just spread the $10, the 10 booth fee into other artists. Also, it's a big circle. They got 2 days to set up, which is great. And I really recommend people to come on Wednesday. Then for the breakdown, you have to be out of the park by 10 o'clock in the morning. So, but you still have to get in line to get everything out of there. So it might be less people, so it might be easier. But I was just looking at the layout. There's a section where the parking is. Instead of parking us in the back in the show, they should just take some artists that section in there, just stand out of there and let traffic go in and out from there for the people that want to park nearby. I just don't know. And the footer was ridiculous. Thursday, Friday, they have it rained didn't rain that bad, but the forecast kind of scared people out. Then if you Google the show, the first thing that comes out is the office, and they have the office like a close on Fridays. And if read all the way through, you think the show is closed on Friday. There's no reason to go there. So it was a ghost town on Friday. Saturday, I would say that I saw more people walking in Bonita than that show on Saturday. And Sunday, it rained most of the day. I got lucky that it's selling at the last minute at 30 by 45. But I know that some people did well in the circle, but there was all high ticket items. And there was not enough people in there for 300 artists. That's the bottom of the line. And they are a group that you cannot criticize because you don't want to get blacklisted, or if you complain
cares?
like well, they escorted last year from the downtown Houston, somebody out because she was complaining about the fuel the generator was producing in her tent. And they escorted out and they said with the police. So it's not a fun thing to do. And the other thing that I noticed, I love some of my friends, but they get out of the wait list and they got a better spot than me, in my opinion.
Sounds typical.
I mean, Oscar, that show has a history of problems.
Yeah. Why does anybody do it?
Yeah, the show is, every year they come up with a new way to shoot themselves in the foot and cause problems for artists. Last year there was massive problems with load in and load out, and then it wasn't that about 3 years before COVID, after they closed after the deadline for applying, they changed the number of artists they were going to accept and added almost twice as many artists. It almost doubled the size of the show.
It was at one time. There was over 400 at one time. I got into an argument with that guy, the executive director. I know he was a big shot because he had an engraved name tag. And he said to me, "Oh, I've run this for 20 years." And I said, "Oh, so you're a newbie. I've been doing art fairs for 30 years." called him a newbie. I suggested that they cut the fee down in half, and then have twice as many people come, and then they'll sell more, crap food that they'll make more money from the vendors.
That's the other thing that I find out about that show. The food trucks pay a fee, and then they have to pay a percentage of the profits from that they make.
That's pretty
pretty
regular here.
That's standard for a lot of shows.
And they do really
understand
well
that,
on
but
top of it.
that's kind of because some of the food in there was, when you find dumplings for $8, seven dumplings for $8, it was the cheapest thing you can eat in there. And that's the other problem is there's no place to go to eat nearby, even if you wanted to. And the other thing that was really interesting is like some of my friends still stayed in the camping and back there and still camp. But I was saying, like, what is the point of camping if you once you get in, you cannot leave the show. You cannot get out of your car until it's time for you to go to set up. It was just, I don't know. I took a gamble with the show and I will go back,
One and done
it's
for
not
me.
because of the sales, it's because of the what they're doing. It's just like to me, they fall in the same level when it comes to doing things as Crasso. Like if you don't know if you're not doing your part, what is the point? And there's no parking, and they're talking about moving the show or don't do the show at all already. That's what the community is thinking. But they need the money. So, and the places they think that they can move it, I don't know if the city is going to let them move it over there. So.
You talking about Bayou City?
Yeah.
Who cares?
Well, it's,
Move it.
they're not going to move. They're not going to be able to move it. So
here's how I see it. There's a gazillion shows. So who needs to do it? It isn't like the only show. It's like just a show.
Do
Do
every time
something
I've thought about doing it a few times, and every time I think about doing it, I wind up talking to somebody, and or I think about doing it and I read the horror stories from that year, and it's like, no, why bother? I don't need, why take on the headaches?
You're right. There's no reason.
But there's some people that did well, but I never, everybody say that I know that the show traffic was horrendous, they didn't know what's going on. But if you know the things that was going behind the what make it shows work, and they're not doing that, what faith you have for them doing? They're thinking that just take the show out. And there was another photographer talking to the president, and he said, so how difficult is to get to the Houston show? And I said, there's nothing competing against that show in this area, so it's going to be hard to get in. Because basically, I'm going myself going, the only way I would do that if I do Cottonwood and this show at the same time, because otherwise I'm not going to drive to Texas just for one show. I'm doing that. I'm taking a gamble with La Fiesta because I'm in waitlisted for South Lake. So I'm still hoping that they get called at the last minute.
Well, there's a bunch of shows. South Lake, Cottonwood, Fort Worth.
Those all in April and May. That's the problem with Bayou. Bayou both shows, they don't put it in any place that they can be close to the other shows. They always put it like way ahead or nothing around that. Like
you act like you regret that.
What?
That makes it like, who cares? I mean,
Take a weekend off. Go do another show. Take a weekend off.
Stay home.
Stay
No,
home.
I just don't.
Get a date.
I understand that. I was just talking to my friends. They saw one big painting, and that was the only thing they saw the whole weekend. And I said, like, I'd rather next year stay all the way to the end of March, do as many Florida shows as I can in that stretch, and drive up when I start doing Dogwood, if I get into Dogwood, and then come home at that point.
You know,
That's what
you kind of have a charmed life in this. Like I have to make my pieces. I have to come back and make my pieces. It takes weeks. You know, you don't have to do that. Um, you know, so you could drive around and you can do 30 shows or whatever. I can't do that. I actually have to come back. And what that does is it eliminates it eliminates those shows, or it makes me program so that, like, when I was done with Florida, I came back to work to get ready for April. You know, there was nothing in March, and I'm here now, you know, making stuff for April. And when that's done, I'm going to come back and make work. And I got a couple galleries. Instead of doing shows, I got a couple galleries that buy the work in May, you know, and then I'll take off again in July. And I like, you know, don't drive around so much. Go stay at home. Get a date. Go to match.com and meet somebody. I mean, you know, do something else.
How much could you make doing installations in a week?
A lot, probably.
You know, stay home and do installations for a week. Do something different.
well, that's what I'm doing this week and next week.
You know,
it's not about that. It's just also, you know, that's the other thing. And this month, I don't pick up the installations until now. The other months is totally that. The installation, because everybody's in Arizona or Florida. You know, there's very few people, so I would be starving to death if I was standing here. So it's not as, and I still rather do an archer because I make more money doing an archer than doing installations.
oh, so you made more money going to, so you're telling me you made more money going and doing Bayou City than
No,
you
this
did
week,
if
but
you stayed home?
I can tell you that in Florida I make almost what I did in
No, I'm not
installations
talking
last
about
year.
Florida. I'm not talking about Florida. I'm talking about Bayou City. So you made more money at Bayou City than if you had stayed home and done installations?
Yeah, but what happened? That's the contract to that. In this case, didn't work, right?
I don't
But
believe it.
the contract is why it's guaranteed. I can go to Dogwood and make more money in there than I will do an installation a whole year. We don't know that. I don't know that until you do the show. You can go to Fort Worth and zero out. I wouldn't know until do the show.
That's true. And somebody
You
next
know.
to me actually did that at Fort Worth. But then you take that chance. I'm still not gonna cancel Fort Worth because I think I might do zero. I mean, if I do
So
zero, I
that's
survive.
my approach. You know,
It's risk
when I do
reward.
when
It's
I
like
apply to the
investing in the
shows, I
stock
think that I'm
market.
going to do well.
It's risk reward. How much are you going to risk if you don't sell anything versus what the possibility is of you know, what you would gross. That's all, to me, that's always how I think of it.
So, but you know, that's one show. That's the same thing I can say about the first show I did in Florida. I could have stayed at home another week and make more money by staying at home.
Yeah.
But I don't know, because last year that was not the case.
You know,
So,
you're pretty good business wise, but when you're talking about going to Bayou City versus staying at home, you have to count it from the minute you leave till the minute you come back, like how much, and then subtract what it cost, the added expense of going there, you know, gas, food, hotels, whatever you're paying for, and on the way back, and then you compare that to if I stayed at home and I just did installations, how much are you going to gross versus how much it's going to cost you, and I'm skeptical when you say you would make more money going to an art fair, because in that situation, you got to do really well to actually equal the same thing based on cost, what it costs you, and also you're not counting labor costs. We never do. We're the only industry that doesn't count labor. It's ridiculous. You're like, what's wrong with us? What's wrong with me? You know, should have gone to law school.
I just know that I don't.
You do
I
love
don't-
to argue, Barry.
What's that?
You do love to argue.
No, see that, but that's not it. I want things to be great. I want it to be like it used to be, and it's not. And it behooves me to speak up. I think everybody should speak up. I shouldn't be the
It was a
only
comment
one.
on the law school, Barry. I'm sorry.
No, I understand that. I
Supposed to be a
understand that.
gentle joke.
I know it was funny. I loved it. It was great.
Okay.
You know.
Okay.
I'm just saying that, in my opinion, in my experience, I'm going to tell you when normal show for me, I do more money in the next show than I do in the installation. That's what I'm gonna do. Show that I'm not ranked high.
I don't believe it.
And that's when you figure in all your expenses, your time, and everything else.
Yep.
Not to mention depreciation on his vehicle. Let's go through the whole thing. You know, I mean, I don't see. I'm skeptical about that, Oscar.
Well, that's you, Barry. I'm not going to tell you how much I make really in each show. I can tell you that.
Well,
I'm
good.
just going to tell you that I doubled my sales from Florida last year. And
That's
last year
great.
was good.
No, but see, Florida's different because your initial expense, once you get there, you're not doing one event, you're doing a number of events. So really, your expenses, if you manage it, if you divide it up between everything, it's pretty good. It's easy to make. If you go to an area and know you can do 5 or 6 shows, it's actually more cost effective because it's your total amount of gross versus minus your expense. And really, the initial
and I'm going to
expense
tell
is
you
the
that was my mistake about that show. I took a gamble doing something
Yeah.
that I normally would not do. If I cannot pair a show with something else in the trip, I will not do it.
Yeah,
Like right now, if they call me if I get into R&D apparel, I cannot do it because I have nothing else to pair it. Because the high-end desert, I didn't get into high-end desert, so I'm not going to drive to Oregon for one show.
yeah,
So,
it's pretty far to
so
go to
that-
Oregon.
I understand that point, but I was going like, let me take a gamble with this. And I took a gamble and didn't pay out. It was a high risk, high reward, either way.
No,
What we
the
do is
occasional
fairly
gamble
low
is a
risk.
good idea in your business. In your business, the occasional gamble is a good idea. You have to test new markets, test new shows.
It was just a gamble. This is the only show I think I'm doing a gamble normally. Everything else is not, But every show every year is different. So I cannot tell you one way or another one.
Yeah,
There's no way I could do what you do, Oscar. I couldn't go to Florida and spend all summer or spend 3 months there. I don't have my printers not there. I can't print work.
Well, let me tell you what I do for the prints. I print all my inventory for what I think I'm going to sell down there and I take it with me. I bring my mat cutter, boxes of mat, and cut everything with me. If I have the frames, I do the same thing. You can do it. It's just that
I couldn't do it. I couldn't print enough stuff. I could not afford to print 3 months worth of work, not knowing what's going to sell, and have stuff. I mean, I filled up half my car, half my Outback, with stuff that's sitting out in the building my studio's in that I've been taking to Bonnie's show for 5 years. That's old stuff. I'm not going to create that every year, and that's what I would do. I come home, I print what's sold. Sometimes if I sell something, I don't even reprint it. If it's something that's been hanging on the wall for 3 years, no, I'm not going to reprint it. I'm going to print something new.
Hey, Court,
Yeah.
The way I deal with Florida is I don't stay 3 months.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll stay 6 weeks, but really I make my most money if I stay like this time, 4 weekends, 3 weeks. It's very efficient to do just 3 weeks, with 4 shows, one each weekend, and then turn around and go back. I spent less money than I would hanging out there, and I did fine.
Yeah.
That's how I do. I too could not stay there for 3 months.
Yeah. The other problem is I do my track record for shows in areas that are tourist destinations is horrible.
So, but that's a totally different thing. I do well in Florida that I can take a gamble. And if I don't sell it at Florida, I will have inventory for the rest of the year. I go through the boxes and I just start now I start printing just what I running out.
Okay, Oscar.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want numbers. I just like to know a percentage.
Mm-hmm.
What percentage of your sales are prints that you print, and what percentage of your sales is stuff that the lab drop ships?
Well, you mean no dollars or quantity? Because
In
the stuff
dollars.
in the wall is going to be more higher.
In dollars.
This year, the stuff that I sold of the last year, I compared 2 years different. Last year, every night I had to go to the band and cut 15 max, at least 50 to 20 max every day after the show closed. This year, that was only happening after the show. I had to cut that 15 to 20 max after the show.
Hey, Oscar, let me ask you a dumb question. Why do you not pre-cut the mats before you leave and then have the mats already cut?
It reduces the damage. It reduces the risk of damage.
It's easier to
Just
carry.
in case something stupid happen.
This year for your Florida shows, what percentage of your income was off drop ship stuff from the lab, and what percentage was, stuff you printed yourself?
Well, you cannot compare that because you cannot compare an 11 by 14 or a 16 by 20 print against a 40 by 60.
No, yeah, you can. It's real easy. It's real easy to compare that because, we're talking about.
So you're saying to me that let me put it to you, I can sell, what will be 20 prints, 11 by 14 in a show, and that will be $1,000. I sell 140 by 60, that's $3,000. Now, if you say how many pieces per show I sell off the wall normally, compared to how many prints I sell out of the band is going to always win. But I'm trying to think about if I should eliminate the band because I don't know if I'm making enough effort if it's worth the trouble. That's something I'm going to try to figure out this year. But you cannot compare what you sell off the wall price point against what you sell from the band. It's impossible. You only can compare quantity.
That's not my point. My point is you're making, a substantial part of your profit from stuff that all you got to do is take an order and send it to the lab, and you don't have to fulfill it.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same thing that you do. You go home and just print it. The only difference is that I'm not printing it, the lab is printing it.
Yeah, but everything that I sell, I have to produce. I have to make. Everything Barry sells, he has to go to his studio and make. And I guarantee you it takes him, well, I don't know. Barry can probably produce stuff faster than I can because if I figure in my time to go do the actual photography on an image.
Yeah.
So you're saying that I go to the internet and buy and take the pictures out of the internet?
No, he didn't say that.
What I'm
say
saying
that.
is you can go do a show or a series of shows, and then you don't have nearly as much time in the studio to refill what you sold. You have much less time than I do or Barry does or somebody else does because you're a good portion of your income is coming from those big prints, which is great. There's nothing wrong with it, but somebody buys it, all you have to do is, you got 5 minutes invested in creating you don't have to create another print. All you got to do is call the lab and ship it. So there's a lot.
And the only thing, and the counterback to your point is like you won't have to go home and press enter.
I what?
You only go home and press enter.
Oh God. Come on, this is getting
I love
ridiculous.
this. No. Hey, here's the worst part. When somebody orders something or I have to ship it, like there are 2 pieces that got delivered today, and I keep looking in the email to see if they got there, without breaking, if they didn't complain about breakage. But here's the thing, Oscar, when you're doing those drop ship from the place, you don't have to deal with that hassle. That's a real hassle having to ship it,
What makes
especially
you
for
think
me.
I don't deal with that? What makes you think I don't deal with that?
You're not because you're not packing it and shipping it yourself.
Well,
There-
but I still get the nasty email when the stuff arrives damaged.
I'm talking about the labor. That's right. Yeah, it's not your fault that they did a bad job, but of shipping it, but you didn't actually have to do the physical shipping. I gotta
It's
find
not that difficult to do
boxes,
the
I gotta
packaging for
find
that.
packing material.
It's not a big deal. I ship all the time my Lambda 14s. It's not a big deal. It's all about what you're thinking. And it doesn't mean that when I'm
You're
in the
hired.
road, I'm not working, taking pictures. So it's like you guys think like at least I only can speak about me. While I'm in Florida, I'm taking pictures constantly, every day. And wake up every morning at 4 o'clock in the morning, go out to take pictures, come back at 9 o'clock, sleep, have breakfast, then go back out at 3 o'clock again and go and take out pictures again.
Yeah, I've been there.
I'm
I've
always
seen you.
doing it.
I've
And
seen
when
you
I'm
do it.
here,
And you're not traveling to go do that. You're not traveling to go do those photos. You're there already, so it's easy. I just spent.
well, so you are blaming me for being organized. Like I was. let me
Nobody's
just put it together.
blaming you for anything.
Nobody's
It's
blaming
just
you
a
for anything,
discussion.
Oscar. We're just pointing
I'm
out
not saying,
that
but you attacking me for something that doesn't make any sense. So okay, I'm going to say that I would have got to Park City, Sun Valley, High Desert.
Okay,
I'll
wait.
end up
Photography is a reproduction.
It is.
Larry, I can fix that real quick.
Go ahead.
Okay, so if I'm going out of town, this is what I do. If I'm going to be out of town for X amount of days, before I go to do the art show, I plan if I can go out and take pictures. When I go to Dallas, I always stop in the Algorithm to take pictures. I always make a conscious effort when I'm traveling in the show, I take pictures in the way. Do you know why I do that? Because if you do a special trip just to photograph, that's a red flag for the IRS, that they can audit you because you have a trip to go out to take pictures. What happens if you do a trip and you don't capture anything that you can sell? It became an expensive vacation that you're writing off. So that's what I do the art shows. In between the art shows, I do those shooting. You might shake your head until it doesn't happen to you. You don't understand and until you don't get outed for something stupid like that, you don't understand what I'm talking about. So every time I go out to an art show, I take days to photograph in my way in or my way out. If I go to Houston this weekend, because I only went to Houston, and I got there, I knew I wasn't going to photograph anything. I got an hotel plus the show. Out of the fact that my neck was killing me all weekend long. So it's all how you plan your trips, If you just want to go out and take pictures, that's fine. I'm not going to say opposite of that, but I do what works for me, what allows me to do the installations, what allows me to do my photography and the shows. And that's the way I choose to do my side of the business. I'm not going to tell anybody else, what they do and don't do, how they do it. I can, I can sit down in here and talk about Steve Worker, and he doesn't. He's basically doing the same thing than me. The only thing that he does is he put the frames around the pieces that he does. Have it below and shoot everything with an iPhone.
The difference, Oscar, what I'm trying to do is point out the difference, and that there's some things that you do that are unique that other artists can't do. Okay, other artists, produce every single piece that's in their booth. They don't have the luxury of, looking at a high dollar piece and saying, okay, yeah, and then going in and calling up a lab, putting in an order for the lab, and the lab packages it and ships it. Yeah, if there's a problem, you have to deal with it. If there's not a problem, you don't have to do it. All you've done is call the lab or gone online to the lab and sent it. Other artists can't do that. And so that gives you,
I understand that,
in a different position. Plus,
I understand that, but that was my choice, and I make the technology available to me to do that. I don't want to, because
Oscar,
I know that people don't.
Oscar, there's nothing wrong with what you're doing, but you need to understand that it puts you in a different position and gives you the ability to do some things that I can't do, that Barry can't do. I just spent 6 days on the road. There is no way that I could have done the kind of shooting that I did in those 6 days if I was driving my van. I couldn't have done it.
Isn't that the country song?
Yeah.
I just telling you, if you want to, you can figure it out.
Yeah, I have it figured out. What works for you works for you. What works for me works for me. But what you need to understand is that you're in a pretty unique position compared to a lot of artists.
And Kurt, the thing is, like, I don't like people to be, because every time they talk about that, and I probably meant to, but they always make it sound like I'm doing something wrong, and it's not my fault. I took everything. No,
That's
wait,
just how
it's
you
not my
take it.
fault that you wait, Barry. It's not my fault that you have to produce your own work, that you have to sit down and the wheel, produce the base, fire it, glaze it, refire it. That's your medium. I'm working with photography. I cannot charge the same amount than a painter, and I'm embracing everything that I can do to make my life easier.
I think it's great. I wish I had done it. I wish I had done photography.
I don't say, and you cannot ask, a friend of mine sells a 4x5 for $6,000. I cannot touch that. But granted, I can sell multiple of the same image, and that's a common joke that they have with people with the photography and metal. But it's something that works for me, and I don't think that people should be taken. Don't take it the wrong way. That's how it works for me. I used to not to be able to do that, so that's my take. But I'm working my butt off as much as everybody else, and probably more.
All
That's
right.
the only thing I want to say.
You win. Change the subject.
Mm-hmm.
It isn't a question of winning or losing. It's
I know.
like Oscar gets upset, about some of these things, and really nobody's saying what he's thinking. That
Well, you know what is, you might not, but I hear that all freaking week,
really
every weekend.
Those are from people that are idiots that don't know what goes on.
Well,
you can't let it get to you.
All photographers share the same thing.
I don't let it get you. I just tell people, this is the way I run my business, and you run your business the way you want to run it. End of the story.
You're talking about other artists giving you a hard time, or
Oh yeah,
people on this, they're coming to your booth.
the artists.
how many real artists are out there? There's hardly any.
Oh yeah, I don't go. It's not for me to judge near that. You know, there's some people in this show in Bayou City that they makes you wonder what. That was the other thing that I was noticing. Like, this is not some of those people I want to be seeing a normal show that I do. I don't think they're even in Bonita they let some of those people in. So
Yeah, that's great. I like that.
I got to go do classic mashed potatoes last week.
Cool. What is
Sculptured
that?
classic sculptured mashed potatoes.
That's a thing? That's a real
Classic.
thing.
Okay, do you remember Close Encounters where the guy sculpted the mashed potatoes? And
Oh yeah, right.
Oh,
that's right.
I went to Devil's Tower last week.
Cool.
It was, and I almost threw Parker out of the car for not taking his drone up at one point.
You and Parker went together?
Oh hell, I spent 3 days at Parker's place in South Dakota.
No, he's got a place in South Dakota. Does Kozo come there
yeah,
too?
his dad used to live in there. That's his dad's house.
It's it's his grandfather's house.
Oh.
And his mom's in a nursing home, so he and his brother and his sister, one of them tries to be there most of the year, so they take turns going up there and staying. And it's a really nice place. And so we spent one day going out into the Badlands, and then we spent one day, we went over up around Devil's Tower and up that way.
That's cool.
And we're with the snow. It's really weird with the snow up there, because there'd be places where there's, you can see the snow drifts and it's almost all melted except in the, real shadow spots and the deep drifts. But we were going from, I don't know, whatever the town is where you get off the interstate and you head up towards Devil's Tower. And we went through one area that had, you could just see the tops of the fence posts. And I'm not talking about the deep drifts, along the side of the road. You could just see the tops of the fence posts, and there was just beautiful deep snow everywhere. And I tried to get him to take the drone up, and he just, nah, I'm going to pass. Like, wait a second, But, and then we get to Devil's Tower, and, we're back, there's like this 25 mile less, about 20-mile band of snow, and you drive through it, and then you get the other side, and it drops off really quick, and there was some snow around Devil's Tower. Part of the trail had snow on it in the shade, but
we still have snow.
it was interesting driving back down I went over and drove down 25 to Cheyenne. And there was one spot where there was a lot of snow, not nearly as much as we saw around Devil's Tower, but you could tell there had been more snow there, and then you drove out of it in a couple miles. So,
Hey, the weather pattern's been really weird this year. We've gotten less snow, and like in lower Michigan, they're getting all the snow. We're not getting any snow up here.
we should be happy then.
Well, but there's still snow on the ground.
have you seen any of the videos of the people trying to get the snow off their roofs in California around Tahoe and stuff?
No, but I know what that's like. So, hey, and they have to. You got to do that, or your roof caves in because it snows heavy.
Listen, fellas and ladies, I am fading, so I'm gonna say goodbye for today.
Good to see you.
See you next week.
Okay,
See you next week, Frank.
go take a nap.
I need one. Bye-bye. Recovering from COVID. So,
Oh no.
Oh yeah, I know how that feels.
well, it was bad 2 weeks ago, and it's not bad now, but my stamina isn't where it ought to be yet.
Yeah, I hope you get it back, because mine never came back.
Oh, geez. Well, that scares me. But see you all later.
Yeah.
Bye.
Yeah. Gord, I thought it was just because I was getting older, not having the stamina. because I don't think I got COVID at all, but I have the after effects, tired all the time.
I will tell you the last time I had COVID, I've had COVID multiple times. And last time that I had it, I mean, when I was working at Target, I had an extremely physical job and I was kicking ass on that job. And I got COVID and I tried to cut, and I'm still don't feel like I'm back to where I was physically. And I still have my sense of smell back.
Hmm.
Really?
So yeah, it's long term. My doctor says, I've got other patients with long term COVID, and I just, I do the research and there's nothing I can do, So and I tell you what, there were 2 days. Let's see, I left Hill City on Thursday late morning, and I drove and shot for about 3 or 4 hours. And then I was wasted, and I just, I had some other places to go photograph, and I just said, screw it. And I got on the interstate and drove to Cheyenne.
Yeah.
And the problem I had was out where I was going, it's not like, oh, I can just pull over and stop here. There's not hotels everywhere. So yeah, the next day I was, fine. And I left the hotel at 6:30. And I, drove and shot till about, I don't know, 5:30 that day. And then I had other places I still had light, and I had decent light, and I could have gone and photographed, but, I just said, that's it, I'm toast. And I, dropped down to interstates. I was on US 36, which parallels 70. And I just said, I'm toast, headed down to Interstate 70 and headed home. So,
Well, I started feeling it when I turned 70. It had nothing to do with COVID. I lost stamina. I was tired all the time.
Warranty's up.
Apparently.
I kind of felt it around 60, but then I started that job at Target, and that kind of brought me back.
Because you were doing something physical?
I mean, extremely physical.
No, because it was his dream job.
Yeah. I mean, I look at it this way. I got paid to work out 3 to 5 days a week. I mean, I would go in and, that kind of made it fun. Other than the fact the fuckers in Topeka were trying to kill me by the way they loaded the truck, and, it wasn't a bad job. I got to go stand in the back of a semi away from everybody else, do my own thing, and not have to deal with any bosses or anything. It really wasn't much different than going to the damn gym and, going around a bunch of machines and, and I got paid for it. And considering compared to the other people doing that job, I got paid fairly well because Target pays fairly well. And I had a little bit of seniority, and I was going in really early in the morning. So that kicked in a shift differential. So yeah, I'll take it. I put mine down, Oscar. Nope. He's not even. I even got him a new bed yesterday. So got this drive through the sandhills in Nebraska, which are just, when I drove through them, they were all gray and monotone, monochromatic, and it's like, I can see the different light on these, and I could see the different seasons on these. And, if I was going to be a landscape photographer, I know it's not the beautiful mountains and things that people would normally photograph, but if I was going to be a landscape photographer, I think that's where I would go. You know, got to stopped at a small town in the middle of nowhere in Nebraska and met a guy that made saddles. Well, he was ran a saddle shop, but he had a side business. He made leather tank tops, or he called them bras. He made leather tank tops and sold them at Sturgis. And he had
That's great.
I mean, imagine a bra with leather fringe hanging down off of it, and that's what he made and sold. I guess he did really well, and he even had a space in Sturgis, and almost all of his sewing machines were the old foot pedal type sewing machines that are antiques, and that he had stuck an electric motor on, except one, and that was the one he would take to Sturgis and sew with. And this other gentleman that was with him, that I went into his shop and it was open, but he wasn't there. And this other gentleman said, "Oh, I'll find him." He was just fascinated by the fact that this guy would go to Sturgis and he would tell some woman he needed her measurements, and she'd just, you know, go topless immediately so he could measure. This guy was just, you know, amazed at that. You know, got to go spend some time with Parker, met some of Parker's friends, got to go to Devil's Tower, got to go see the Badlands. Parker fixed buffalo one night. We had buffalo steaks. You know, came back through Cheyenne, got to photograph, did my first really nice piece of video that I really liked. I'm gonna do some more of that. And you know, had really good light on the way home and hit a lot of small towns, got a lot of porches done. Yeah, and none of that, none of that stuff I could have done on the way to a show. So and now I have to sit down. I still haven't downloaded the last 3 days of stuff. Last 2 days of images are right there. I haven't downloaded them yet and looked at them.
Oh, that's because you're goofing around, my friend.
What's that?
You're goofing around. Ted.
Goofing around. God, I was wasted when I got home. I spent a day and a half in bed.
I know.
You know what I do? When I come from a trip, I just sip all the cars, put in the external hard drive, and then I look at them a week later.
You know, I looked at some of the stuff as I did it up there, but you know, I always like, you know, letting it sit for a few days and then look at it. A few days or a week and then look at it. Then I'll come back and look at it again in a few months.
Yeah, because sometimes you miss stuff, or you don't get that emotion attached to the image.
I don't miss it. I just, you know, it just doesn't hit me then. And I come back and look at it later and I'm going, why did I pass this over the first time? You know?
Well, to me, that only happened once to me. Like I passed one image and then I look at it again and saw it, and it was a good image, and it's the one that I saw in value this weekend.
Yeah, I've got one image that I pulled out 18 months or 2 years after the fact.
And that's another thing, that sometimes you go back and look what you have, and now you can work with it. So,
well, it's for me, there's not much working with it. I mean, pretty much, you know, I do very little to the image. I mean, other than convert it to black and white.
I don't mean with that and working into anything. I'm talking about the selling point, because I photograph And then when I get home, I see what I have to see what I can use in the art show. I just go and photograph. I don't photograph for the show. I just photograph for me and what I enjoy doing. And then I go, when I get home, I take a look and see what I can add to the booth. Like this year, I got a bunch of pictures. I got a set of pictures of animals that I would never sell. There's an alligator that I photographed, and when I was in the camping ground that I call maybe it's a male, but who knows? I call it Sally. So it was in the same pound all the time. So
Well, folks, I gotta go. I'm gonna go fix dinner, and I've got to start getting ready for Oklahoma City.
have fun with that.
I will. See you all later.
All right.
Later.
Yep.
Bye.
So when you live for Fort Myers, I'm in Fort Worth.
The 15th. That's whatever that is.
15th is a Saturday, if you mean April.
It is.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I was gonna leave Sunday, or I think I was leaving Monday, that Monday, whenever that is. So maybe it's 17th.
Okay.
Well, I guess
That's about it.
that's about it.
Yeah. I got pots to finish.
I have to go see.
Well, I will see you
Jim.
guys next week if I'm not
Okay.
busy doing installations.
All
Have
right.
fun, Larry,
Yeah.
because your mama don't dance and your daddy don't rock and roll.
Take care, guys.
All right.
Okay, you too.
All right. Bye-bye.
See y'all.
Bye-bye.